What's the most legendary work meltdown you've seen? I worked in it and one guy, who was one of the most chilled guys I knew, was responsible for the deployment, updates, and maintenance of a specific product that generated high revenue. One afternoon I was sitting at my desk and just heard a big crash and saw one of his 3 monitors on the floor. He stood up, shoved the next monitor over the divider onto the next section's desk, then swiped the 3rd monitor off the other side, picked up his keyboard and smashed it as hard as he could, kicked his chair away and slowly and calmly walked out the department without saying a word. He came back to work the next day as if nothing happened. Everyone knew the pressure he was under and was very good at his job, so nobody said a thing. One of my old coworkers told me about the biggest meltdown he ever saw. The job was a pretty high stress to begin with and people were always on the verge of screaming at each other. So, this guy, let's call him Jake, had been working 12 to 14 hour days. Was on call 4 hours. Had 2 hours of commuting a day. Said he never saw his girlfriend who he lived with. Missed his niece's first birthday because of work. Dude was on the edge. Enter Sally. Sally was in charge of invoicing and had spent the whole previous week on vacation spending time with her daughter that was visiting. She came in on a Monday to finish up some billing but was taking the rest of the week off for more vacation. She approached Jake while he was in the middle of working out some major issues, saying he needed to get some things for her to finish billing. Jake told her he would get to it as soon as he could. Sally continued to ask again every 10 minutes, getting more irritated with each request. Finally, she enters Jake's office, big open area shared with coworker mentioned above, and nastily says, "It'd be real nice if you'd do your job, so I can go home and see my family." Jake proceeded to kick the door open behind him, breaking the frame and the automatic closer. At the end of the hall he kicked another door open, putting a hole in the wall behind it. He then went to the equipment storage area and began throwing pieces of metal rigging, making a ton of noise. This drew the attention of others who came to check out what was going on. When someone asked what was going on, Jake said, "If that BTCH says one more word to me, I'll be leaving in the back of a cop car." Sally was gone by the time Jake calmed down enough to go back inside. Best I've seen was my 7th grade math teacher. There was a girl who always talked in class. She got moved to the front at some point, and she was laughing and giggling as always. After being told to be quiet about 8 times, the teacher is standing front and center in front of her, back to her, and writing an example on the board. Girl has one of those plastic pencil boxes all the girls used to decorate sitting on the front corner of her desk. The teacher just cracked. In one smooth motion he spins around, yells "shut up," and smacks the box as hard as he can, and it goes flying 15 feet across the room, smashes into the wall. Pencils. Freaking. Everywhere. He swiftly walks to the door, slams it shut, and we could hear pounding on the wall. One brave kid peeks out the window. Dude was banging his head against the wall. About 2 minutes later, he walks back in. Crickets. Not a noise in the classroom. He begins walking around, picking up every single pen and pencil, puts them all in the box, places it gently on her desk, and then just continues the example like nothing ever happened. It was exquisite. In high school I worked at a grocery store and this kid was all pissed off at another bagger and swearing in front of the customers. He said he was hoping he would get fired. I told him he should quit before he gets fired so that it would look better on his resume in the future. A few minutes later I realized he was missing. Then suddenly he comes around the corner from the manager's office, no longer in uniform. He threw his uniform in the trash in front of the manager. Then he looked at me and said loudly, "I took your advice," then proceeded to walk across the front end, point to each associate saying "duck you" to each of them, and walked out. Everyone was staring at me after, and I said I did not tell him to do that. I'm in radio, and one of the group of stations I worked at had an older station, a rock station and a pop station in the same building. We had an announcer who was really eager and wanted to learn and work and was really a great guy, but the big bosses were total jerks to him and were stuck in their old ways of doing things. They treated the announcer, we'll call him Howard, really poorly, and Howard used to come in and vent about it. He ended up getting hired at another station, but before he left, he went into the music libraries and replaced all the Led Zeppelin songs on the rock station with a gospel song from the oldest station called Trumpets of Jesus. For an entire weekend, anytime Led Zeppelin was supposed to play, Trumpets of Jesus played instead. Howard has since gone on to become program director and has won all kinds of leadership awards. Total legend. Edit. For those asking where it was at a station in Canada. A guy delivered pizza with had his parking spot taken by a guy he hated. He pulled out a giant monkey wrench out of his trunk and smoked him in the back of the head with it. Knocked him out. Yeah, he got arrested. And fired. This guy in a restaurant kitchen got in a fist fight with a younger guy, punched him in the face, backed up, started shaking his face, and doing the Scooby-Doo voice. He was nuts. I broke it up and took the other guy out of the kitchen to separate them and came back 10 minutes later and the crazy guy had perfectly cleaned his area, like freaking spotless, and clocked out early and never returned. Never seen or heard from him. Never picked up his last paycheck. Weirdest hit I've ever seen. Edit. Typo. Guy hollers hard of hearing had to blast the radio. Another guy gets sick of complaining to a tickless manager who does nothing. So he silently rips it off the cubicle and smashes it on the floor. Which is not carpet. And hard. Really ducking hard. Like the damn thing killed his grandmother. With a look of silent but unfathomable rage on his face, like Hugh Jackman coming out of the water, or whatever in that Wolverine origin movie. It explodes. All the guts capacitors, coils, resistors, transistors, circuit board etc go flying. And then as people are gasping and screaming he just sighs, satisfied like hell has just busted a huge nut and leaves. I pretended to be horrified, but I was so happy inside. I had a coworker freak out on a customer at Walmart. I used to be a cashier, and people used to tend to treat us like shit. Anyway, the lady got pissy because she couldn't price match some Doritos because it was the wrong size or something. Anyway, it escalates. We can't find the CSM and a few minutes later they are screaming at each other. The cashier's parting words were, "I ain't ducking price matching your Doritos. You don't even need those Doritos with your fat butt." Needless to say, that was her last day. Edit. Never would I have thought my most commented and liked comment would be something from Walmart. I'm currently dying right now. I was in court, lawyer, and we were arguing a motion and requesting sanctions against plaintiff's attorney. The judge starts talking and dressing down the plaintiff's attorney, who, now offended, decided it would be a great idea to interrupt the judge, insult the judge, and flat out told him you were too stupid to make it in private practice, and you do not know what the duck you are doing. She had been licensed for all of 3 years. She is no longer licensed. Edit. She was being sanctioned for soliciting false testimony by falsifying an affidavit. Working a retail summer job. A forklift driver was moving a skid of pickled eggs that wasn't wrapped properly. It fell, and a ton of juice and eggs went everywhere. Manager comes out and does the takes off hat and throws it on the ground while yelling, "Oh, what a mitt." After he went full gunnery Sergeant Hartman on the dudes, but for ducking up. It was enough to make him cry and quit the next day. Edit. Some follow up. Mr. Manager was with ours the next day. Lost his manager position for a few months. When he got his manager position back he was pretty chill from now on. Some of us younger guys don't like it as much because his outbursts were quite funny. I remember one time I was getting an earful and I could hear some of my friends trying to contain their laughter in the next aisle. As for the forklift guy, he did come back and is now working mornings instead of evenings. 9th grade, my English teacher had a breakdown in front of the class. Kept silent but started crying whilst writing on the overhead projector her complaints about the disrespectful kids in her class. You've been visited by the safety doggo. Like this video and subscribe. You've been visited by the safety doggo. Like this video and subscribe. You've been visited by the safety doggo. Like this video and subscribe. You've been visited by the safety doggo. Like this video and subscribe. You've been visited by the safety doggo. Like this video and subscribe. You've been visited by the safety doggo. Like this video and subscribe.